What's up YouTube? We're back. So this is going to be part 3 of painting the dragon turtle. So far this is what we have. Got some nice green flesh tones in there. We got nice blue shell with the barnacles and a nice creamy khaki color for the underbelly. So for the actual flesh areas, I decided I'm going to start from the back and work my way forward. So we're starting with the tail. Now, just like in the previous sections, we have areas of this that are not fully primed. So we will go in with our primer and we will paint in those areas. So I'm just going to do that real quick and then we can move into the actual painting of the miniature. So I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So got the tail up on my holder, make it easier for myself. Now y'all might be wondering why I'm using this one, because I'm not using these little attachments to grab on anything. The way I see it, I may need to shift this as I do it, so at some point I might have to shift to using them instead of holding it here just to hit certain areas better. But for right now, the grabber's good, so I just want to use this one so that I've got what I think will be the best version at the moment available to me. Now I'm going to be using the wet palette again, and we are starting off with a pale green, and that's because for the skin section here, the effect we're going for is having these lighter greens underneath and these darker greens on the raised areas. So we're gonna base it out with this pale green. And we're just going to generously hit everywhere with this, and it'll probably take a few good layers to get a full effect. And I am going for a bit of glaze work in this, just to let this pre-shading really do what it's supposed to do. And this will be the first piece where you get to see the actual darker greens really pop, like I was saying, because you can see it a little bit in the skin areas on the previous piece, but this piece, it'll start to really show itself off. I've also got a few small sections in here that I'll be going back and painting it more of a bone color. But for right now, I'm more worried about getting these base green layers in. We can deal with the bone at a later point. So get nice coverage. And with the size of this section and how thin we've got the paint, by the time we reach areas that we have already painted for the second coat, they should already be dry. So we should be able to just keep painting continuously, not having to step back for a second, let stuff dry, and then continue. And I'm not gonna lie, when you first start painting one like this, the lighter colors underneath are gonna look weird. They're not gonna look right. But as you start to paint in the detail and let those darker colors really pop out, and let these undershades and the brighter colors reveal themselves, it looks really cool, and actually for a turtle looks really natural. So you can see that section is fully dry. So now as we paint in another layer, it'll remove the brush strokes that you could see before and get everything a nice solid color, which is what we're wanting. But we're just going to keep going around the miniature, adding paint like this until we get nice and solid all the way through, good clean colors. So I'll be back with the results from that. Okay, we're back. So I have a black green now, and we're switching to our regular palette for this. Go ahead and put some of this in here. Now for this step, we're going to switch to a dry brush. So load up, brush it off. Now we're just gonna dry brush those raised areas with this black green. There's a lot of area to hit with this, so it'll take quite a few loadings of the brush to really get an area good. Make sure to get the ridges along this section too. And our little spines right here, we're going to come back and we're going to do them with our layer brush actually instead of the dry brush, because we're going to kind of alternate between dark skin, bone for that area. As y'all should see, let's get the light better. As you can see, it's filling in all that detail nicely. So I'm going to keep working at this, and I will be back after I've hit up everywhere like this. And you'll probably have to keep doing refills on your paint. Just don't overload anything. So, I'll be back, YouTube. Okay, we're back, and for this part, I wanted to kind of hold it by hand. So we're just going to use our flat brush again, and we're going to go in here actually, flat brush is not going to work for this, that's too wide. I think my other one is smaller. So you are a flat size one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the other flat brush is smaller. So let's take a look. Size 0, yes it is. Before we go load it up, let's test it. Fits. Yep, that works. So, using this flat brush, we're going to go in and paint our darker skin areas by hand. And everything that we're leaving behind unpainted is stuff that we're going to be coming back later and painting them in bone colors. So, let's try to get this to where y'all can see if that good. Zoom in some. There we go. So that's what we're going for. And we'll just fill in, make sure we get nice, good, solid layers. And I don't want any bone on the tip, so we're going to do all of the tip in the dark. Okay. So we'll flip it over, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. There we go. So now we can just take a look over here, make sure all the tips get hit good. And once we're confident that this side is good, we can move on to the other side of the tail. I'm going to start at the same place. So we want this to look matching. And make the bones that are coming out of the tail look like they are vertebrae. And we're just going to keep painting it like this until we have our full effect. So I'll be back in a bit, YouTube. So I'm back. So now we want to start finally building up our highlights on these areas. And we are using forest green. And change out my paper for this. So we're going back to our dry brush. We are just going to it's a bit wet. So we're just going to dry brush this in here. Letting it catch where it may, but for the most part we just want the black green. This is just to add a little bit of highlight to it. We don't want a lot of color from it. Got a little bit more in there than I wanted. That's fine, because I can go back in. That's too wet. Okay, we're gonna have to change this out. So that's gotten too wet. We're also gonna need to pour off that excess water. So we'll just use the center section here for the excess, because it should not be that heavy in the water. Okay. Down. Okay. And so we're just going to go back with our pale green and just glaze that in there so that we maintain the detail that we built up. I feel like that toned down my detail a little bit too much. So we'll go back for one last dry brush with the black green. So there we go. So now we're going to use that real thin liner, well, flat brush, I should say. And we're just going to clean up areas that are dry brushing made a little too messy with the pale green, just to maintain those nice details. And once we have cleaned this up, we'll move on to painting our bone. That looks, that's pretty cleaned up. See, we got nice detail lines. So let's get our brush cleaned off, and we can move on to our bone colors. So, there it is, bone shadow. And so this is our bone sections are gonna look much like our barnacles color wise. That's kind of the color scheme we're going for. And we're just going to go through and keep painting like this until we've painted all of them. So I'll be back with the next step. So our next step is to come in and add some detail to this with our aged bone. So we're just going to carefully go in here. We want to leave some of that detail from the bone shadow behind, like pretty much bottommost area of it. And we're just going to slowly try to get this in the go up. And there we go. Now I'm going to move to somewhere standing right here so y'all can really see it. Got it zoomed in so y'all can see. And you're just going to completely do one side. And once you're comfortable with that side, flip it over. Get back into and do the other side. And just a little bit of this paint can go a long way. You also don't need perfect coverage with this one because leaving some of those undertones of the previous layer does add a nice effect on the overall Mini and keeping it looking natural, because this is not something that would be, all of them would be perfectly identical. So we're going to build these claws up like this, and I will be back. So now is where we add some actual real color to this. I have yellowed bone, and I'm just going to come in, and once again, you don't need a lot. This will go a long way, and we're still wanting to leave a bit of that previous color behind, but we don't want it to be perfectly uniform. We want it to continue to look natural as we do this. So we'll leave more behind in some places, less so in others. And this yellowed bone here is the main thing that's going to provide these tailbones with color. And since this is the main color for the tailbones, we want to make sure that for this one, everywhere that we paint it, we got nice good layers. Anywhere where we don't want color leaking through, we've got filled in really well. And we're just layering this up to get the nice full desired effect. So that's kind of that half of it. I'm going to go ahead and do the other half, and I will be back with the results. Okay, we're back. So we're going to finish up our detail with polished bone. So this, try to get just a little, just need a little bit of detail work here. And we are going to use just the smallest bit and just hit the very tips with this. This is just supposed to brighten up the edges. We still want them to be mostly yellowed bone. Get both sides. And that is that. And that is a finished section of the miniature. So go ahead, I'm gonna start setting up for our last thing we got to do. While that dries, I'm gonna work on this area first, since this side is already dry. So brush on sealer. I have to clean that up some when I finish. And I have a brush here that I use only for like sealing, painting on glue and stuff like that. We're just going to brush it on and get it everywhere. Some people prefer to use a spray-on sealer. Personally, I like having this I can just brush on myself, just because that lets me control and make sure I get it everywhere that it needs to be. Also, when I'm working on more interesting projects where I may want to have a matte sealer as well as a gloss sealer, this allows me to do that. I can have both and get the glossy effect in some places on a flat matte effect in others. But this one here, it's not a pure matte gloss, but gloss. It's not a pure matte sealer. It's very much clear. But if I had a glossy paint underneath, it would still allow that to come through some. So this is my main one that I use because it lets most paints retain the way that they're supposed to look. It's only when I need to amplify an effect that I switch out to my other products for sealing. And whenever I'm trying to amplify for those, I go with the tester stuff, the people who make the paints for miniature cars, car models, whatnot. I go with them. So while that finishes up, we'll go ahead and grab the glue. I like to use Loctite gel. Grab mini. And just fill in the hole that this one's getting inserted into. That bottle of glue appears to be empty. Thankfully, I have a few more of those that are placed where? Where did I place the excess ones? Right there. Okay. Let's get this open. There we go. And like I said, just glue this in. And so you can see some of the detail work we painted can't be seen, but by hitting it everywhere, that makes sure everything that can be seen gets seen perfectly well. So I'm just going to shift things around so I can give you all a better look at the miniature so far as it is, and that is where we will call this video done. That was about 2 hours of work on that one, so pretty good for that section. And I'll definitely be completing sections a lot faster now that I'm working with smaller sections. And normally I don't bother with keeping a timer on how long it takes me to complete a whole project, but a very large project like this is good for me to know what it took to complete. So let's see here. Here we go. Let's get the zoom to a good spot. So that's how this is looking all together. Flip to the other side so y'all can kind of see how I'm going to try to zoom this in so y'all can see some better detail on that shell that I didn't get to show off. So you see we got some really nice transitions in there. And that is going to be it for this section.